Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack here. Monday now, the 10th day of March 2025. Hopefully nobody left behind in standard time and everybody moved forward. And we are now back in daylight time, as we call it. That extra hour of sun in the evening, that works just fine for me. I know there's a lot of controversy about it out there. And that's not what we're here to talk about, though. The main thing I want to make sure we are aware of out in the weather world is what is going to be happening towards the end of the week and into the weekend. This dangerous outbreak of severe weather looks likely Friday into Saturday. I'll show you that as we progress through. And then we're going to take a look at some things related to the tropical season coming up, the hurricane season, sea surface temperatures, and a new update from the climate forecast system related to the state of the ENSO, or El Nino Southern Oscillation phenomenon. All different pieces to the puzzle that we keep an eye on during the off season. But a very busy day ahead, a very busy week ahead with all kinds of weather to talk about. So let's start with a look at the tropical tidbits here, the satellite shot. We'll just leave it on a still frame for now. This is pretty helpful. The main weather story is this feature here, low pressure area and associated storminess, especially across parts of the peninsula of Florida. Severe weather down that way. I had a text this morning from our good friend Karen. And then CJ with severe weather coming off the Gulf across Florida, Groveland area, possible tornado. And then we all saw, or at least if you haven't seen it, you've heard about it, the tornado that directly impacted the Fox 35 station along the I-4 corridor. Been driving past that location for many years myself. I know it quite well. This is what it all looks like on the National Weather Service homepage, the watches and warnings map. I really like this map. It gives you a good idea of how active or not the weather currently is. Starting in the east, gale warnings over here because of that coastal low. A few special marine warnings in the offshore waters of the peninsula of Florida. Again, that's all related to that coastal-ish storm, whatever you want to call it, low pressure area and associated rain. You know, up here where I am, it's cool and dreary. Farther to the south in the warm sector, well, we've seen the results of that. Severe weather has been an issue this morning. That will start to die out over the coming hours, which is great. Meanwhile, all these pinks you see here that I'm circling in red, that is your red flag warning area. Very low humidity, high wind, and so the potential of fires, brush fires, ground fires, whatnot. Very, very dangerous situation there. And then more wind activity along the border states up here because of just the nature of March. You know what they say, the Ides of March. You know, March is typically a very windy month because we are changing the seasons around. And then out west, our first storm system is going to come in and dump some snow. And then, boy, do we have a doozy, a real monster storm heading in later on. I'll show you that as we go forward. But first, Twitter not working for me today for whatever reason. Hey, my browser's working. The Cloudflare is working, you know, my ASP and all that. But Twitter, nope, not so much. So we will turn to the YouTube, which is not having their own RUD today. And if you know what that means, you can get a good chuckle out of it. But here's a little snip here, a snippet, whatever, from the tower cam down there in Orlando. This was live when it was happening. Tornado passed through. All those people on I-4, you got to think, man, they had to be completely you-know-whatting in their pants. Because, dang, that is really dangerous stuff. Your visibility goes to nothing. There's stuff blown across, probably a lot of tree branches and whatnot. Very dangerous situation there. This is why you got to be weather aware. And I know we're busy people, but you got to pay attention somehow, some way. Get those alarms on your phone, those alerts, whatever, because this is serious stuff here. Preliminary estimates looking at radar, easily well over 100 miles per hour. We'll wait for the National Weather Service. I guess that will be the Melbourne office to come out and do their survey because, boy, oh boy, it actually happened. They got hit by a tornado. Look at all that debris there. Luckily, the station and everybody there knew what to do, and there weren't any injuries or problems. But this is quite the dramatic scene for sure down there in Orlando. All right, let's close the YouTube tab and take a look at the forecast coming up over the next several days, and I am here to tell you, right here, right now, this is going to be a week to remember. The size of this storm, the intensity of it, not messing around. I mean, this is really going to be something, and when I show you And this is just the surface map, a very easy to understand basic surface map with highs and lows on it, and the blue areas, typically your frozen precip, and then the greens, your unfrozen or liquid precip, and then various gradients or whatever and intensities thereof. So let's see what happens as we go forward. Get me off the screen and we'll play this out frame by frame. First storm system comes in to the southwestern parts of the country over here as our storm system exits the southeast part of the country. Then you've got your dynamics up here with the cold air, for now locked up in Canada. A little clipper system moving across, again, up in Canada. At least we're shutting off the lake machine for snow, finally, after many, many feet of it. Many feet of it, believe me, this year. So let's keep moving forward over the next few days. This is tomorrow afternoon. Kind of tranquil overall, which is good, because once we get into Wednesday, out west. Now, a couple things about this. First of all, I love seeing that deep blue in the Sierras. That is a great sign, and even up through the rest of the mountainous areas through here. You need the snowpack. You need that fresh water. That is a good thing to see. But this will cause problems. It's going to rain at the lower elevations, snow in the higher elevations, all the way down to Southern California. Once again, we're going to have to watch out for mud flows and debris flows and that kind of stuff on the burn scars from those terrible fires recently. But then the Intermountain West out here, the different mountain ranges, not going to name them all because A, that would be showing off too much, and B, let's just keep moving forward. But believe me, it is going to be snowy in the higher elevations. And if you like to ski, especially in Utah, look at that. Utah is going to get slammed. Even the northern areas of Arizona, some of those, what is that, the Snow Bowl, I think it's called, in the Flagstaff area. Never been there myself, but yes, they do ski. Isn't it the Arizona Snow Bowl? I think it is. This is going to be the setup for quite the favorable pattern for snow out that way. Now, we are all the way out to Friday morning, and then look what happens. Now, luckily, the GFS is starting to come into a little bit better sensibility here. That low pressure in and of itself, 975. If you saw a 975 hurricane sitting over the Gulf headed towards somewhere, we'd all be like, whoa, that's pretty deep. That's easily a Category 1, getting on towards Category 2, honestly. But over land, over in Nebraska, you bet that's going to cause a lot of problems. Look at these isobars all around this sucker. Really windy conditions, especially on the backside. The fire weather danger in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, let's just call it the Southern Plains. That is going to be a very big problem. And then the snow on the backside of this from the Dakotas, western parts of Nebraska, northeast Colorado, and a good deal of central Wyoming. Wow, blizzard conditions out there to be sure. And then you absolutely can imagine that the dynamics with this, it doesn't show up well on this particular map of the GFS, but we'll look at it in a moment from this tab up here, the Storm Prediction Center. Definitely worried about this area for severe weather Friday into Saturday. Then this system does lift on up into the lakes region, and then the severe weather really starts to become a problem. I am more concerned about Saturday, to be honest with you, as a very dynamic pattern will be setting up. This is going to draw in very moist, unstable air from the Gulf, which is, and I'm going to show you in a minute, still running well above normal sea surface temperature-wise. So the makings are there for this to be quite an impactful storm coming across the country with severe weather Friday and Saturday. And then another system coming into the Pacific Northwest out here once we get into the latter part of the weekend. More mountain snow, and a lot of it, and lower elevation rain. Again, it's a good thing to see overall because the West needs as much moisture as they can get. Look at that, even more snow for the Sierra. And check the date, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Going to be blue in the high elevations, so make sure you wear some green lest you get pinched. Haha. All right, seriously though. Today, the severe weather has been limited, luckily, to the peninsula of Florida. I say luckily, we're talking about the rest of the country. You know what I mean. Not so lucky for folks down there. Tomorrow, not so bad. A little instability with that storm system coming in, Southern Cal. Maybe San Diego has a little rumble of thunder. We'll have to wait and see. But by Wednesday, the threat starts to materialize out here in parts of Louisiana, just the extreme northwestern portion, southwest Oklahoma. What do they call that? The Arklatex region. And then we'll throw Oklahoma in there for good measure. But it is the day 5 and day 6 time periods that we are most concerned with. And again, part of what I want to do in my quest of showing you these videos is to give you the tools to read stuff yourselves. It only takes a few minutes. I know we are very, very busy, and we have this to keep us very distracted. I get that. But teaching you how to find this stuff on your own, because it's literally just floating around out there in the air, and you just have to know how to find it. And we know how to find it, right? And it is right here. Read these discussions from the Storm Prediction Center or your local National Weather Service office, or during hurricane season forecast discussions. Some of it can be a little technical, but that again is what this is for. You can Google it. You can, what do you call it? The OpenAI, Chat GPT it. I couldn't think about it. Chat GPT is faster than me. Of course it is. Or you can grok it if you like the Twitter AI. But really, if there's anything in here that you don't understand, look it up and further educate yourself, because I'm telling you, when we look out ahead, trying to drop me out again, bye-bye, this is looking pretty dangerous for portions of, well, we'll just call it all the way here from Iowa down to Louisiana and Texas once again, because of the nature of what we're looking at. Again, strong southerly flow out of the very warm Gulf region, and the dynamics aloft, the wind, all of that, it's there for this to be pretty dangerous. But more people are starting to hone in on this, and this makes more sense. We've seen this time and time again in the heart of Dixie down here, the Deep South, whatever you want to call it. Saturday, I think, could be the more dangerous day. Closer to the Gulf, more warm sector, all the dynamics in place for this to be a very dangerous setup, and you've just got to pay attention and be ready to take action, whatever that means for you, your family, your business, you know, the truckers that we got that use the interstate systems, anybody. We just have to pay attention to the weather so that it doesn't, like they said in that wonderful movie Jaws, you ignore it until it swims up and bites you in the you-know-what. We don't want that to happen. So read this stuff, learn about it as to what's coming, and I'll talk about it more later in the week. We'll probably do another video discussion on Wednesday to update all of this, because these parameters will move into closer time frames and we can examine it in more detail. All right? Today it's just a broad brush look at it, just to make you aware. All right, looking at the global sea surface temperature patterns. The remnants here of the La Nina confined to the central Pacific near the date line over here. East Pac has warmed up quite a bit in recent weeks. Not an El Nino technically, but that's a pretty warm East Pac. We are expecting this to cool back down a little bit as strong easterly winds should resume across this area. And we say easterly, that means they come from the east. Meanwhile, and I mentioned this recently, finally, after a couple of years of ridiculousness, at least this part of the Atlantic Basin has cooled to more normal and even below normal levels. I mean, it's been a couple of years since we've seen that, and we can generally categorize this as being responsible because of this strong subtropical high that's been sitting out here. Pretty oversimplification of it, but a good strong subtropical high will resume those trades. You blow the trades across the water like that, and through evaporation and just mixing. That's the biggest thing, is just mixing it up. Just like blowing across the top of a cup of coffee or hot cocoa or whatever. Soup. Today's a good soup day, by the way. It's chilly and dreary here. You get that hot soup and you blow across the top and it cools it off. That's the same thing that happens out here with these trades, and the same general thing can happen in the Pacific. But in the East Pac, you do have that cold water. I'm trying to draw 3 dimensions here. It's not working. But the cold subsurface water upwells, as we call it, and then you get a cooling out there, which it looks like the models, oh, I forgot, we got to show you this first. We'll get to this in a second, but the models are starting to swing back around. I'll show you that when we wrap things up. Let's just do that. All right, so the Gulf of Mexico, very warm compared to normal, still over most of it. Now, this one little area over here still hanging on. as below normal. But look at this, the loop current coming up in here, and then the rest of the Gulf around this, quite a bit above the long-term average. We're talking about the 30-year average. And this really does play a role in the severe weather. You get your big high that sits out here, the Bermuda high or the subtropical ridge, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it the southeast ridge. That pumps moisture and certainly the wind flow around it. Advex, or laterally moving or horizontal moving air, that moisture-laden content off the Gulf into the south. You get your low pressure forming, the front with it, the dynamics are all there, and you get the ingredients for severe weather. I mean, this setup is absolutely made for the severe weather threat that we are seeing across this region over the coming days. And then eventually it'll shift towards Tornado Alley traditionally. I mean, we got the Dixie Alley down here and then the traditional Tornado Alley back to the north and west as we get into April, May, and beyond. So this warm Gulf really is a culprit in shaping how the weather affects the lower 48, not just during hurricane season, and I cannot emphasize that enough. That's why we pay so much attention to it. Now, on to this. Models are starting to pick up on, at least the CFS. We will see what the Euro seasonal guidance, which has been pretty bullish on a warmer scenario for what we call the ENSO, the El Nino Southern Oscillation. But the Euro this time of year seasonal guidance almost always seems to do that. CFS, this gets run every single day, and this is just one of many models, but I've got it bookmarked. I look at it pretty much daily, part of the obsessive nature to this business. And I've noticed that the mean through here has been oscillating. It jumped up pretty good into neutral territory for a bit. I wish I had saved some of those images. I could probably go back on some of my old YouTube videos and find them from a few weeks ago. But now, I'll take my telestration away, the mean through here is below the neutral line, as you can clearly see. So maybe the models are starting to sense that, no, we're not going to have an El Nino set up coming into hurricane season, which, by the way, the peak would be roughly through this period right here, and we would be on the cool side of neutral. You understand? So interesting to watch the CFS as it moves back and forth on a daily basis, and how that is sort of doing battle seasonally, it seems, with the Euro, and it's always wanting to make an El Nino, and then every once in a while the Euro ends up being right. All right? So a very active week ahead for sure. Dangerous outbreak towards the end of the week. I cannot emphasize this enough. Again, my goal here, make sure you are weather aware. I have said it so many times, but it is true. We are very busy. We have so much going on in our daily lives that you just got to take a minute, watch this video, look stuff up yourself, whatever. Share as you can on social media just to make sure people are in the know. Because think about it. All those folks on I-4 today, how many of them had any clue that there was a tornado warning in and around that area near Fox 35 on that part of I-4? Like I said, I have driven it many times over the years, and I just can't imagine. But again, I'm pretty darn connected. It's my job. It's a little bit different for me. We just want to make sure the rest of you are hopefully at least somewhat connected and are paying attention to the weather. All right? Have yourselves a good rest of your Monday. As always, thank you for giving me a part of your day. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff that the big-time YouTubers say they didn't get to where they are without people subscribing and making the algorithm hook them up. So maybe you could do so for me. I'd appreciate it. And it allows us to keep doing this and hopefully reaching more people and making a difference. All right? I will be back on Monday. We'll do this again on Monday, and we'll update things and see how this outbreak is looking a couple of days down the road. I'm Mark Sudduth again. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again in a couple of days.